Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome back to Gym Time. How much is ideal? And today I'm going to continue our journey and I'm going to get into an explanation of the frequency, intensity, relationships with cortisol, how our body reacts, what are some things that you can pay attention to for readiness, and I'll talk about a few other things to be considered. And by the time we finish this, you'll have had about almost 45 minutes of top-notch, highly practical training on how to manage yourself better in a gym. And hopefully you'll feel inspired to come join Chek Exercise Coach and or do Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1 online, which is a great complement that expands on my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. What we want to always consider before we're making decisions about how hard to train or how often to train, and looking at the variables down here, some of the variables you can use to manipulate this, and I'm going to go into some of these options here and types of reaction, are how frequently are you exercising, how long are you exercising, at what intensity are you exercising, what type of exercise are you doing, and the key thing is how complex is it, how are you periodizing it, and what is the environment that the exercise in. For example, if you're training for a marathon but you're doing a lot of hill running in the mountains on hot days, then you're adding a lot of sun stress and thermal stress to your body, but most people aren't adding that in their weekly mileage or calculating that because our culture is too compartmentalized due to all the scientific influence. Not that I'm against science, it's just religion goes crazy and becomes fanatical, and science goes crazy and becomes fanatical, and just seems to be the nature of human beings. Okay? So the more complex the exercise, usually the faster the nervous system fatigues and the higher the risk of injury is if you keep training past the point that you can orchestrate those movements under load with skill. If your periodization's wrong, which means the way you undulate or approach your exercise and adjust the variables, whether it be reps, sets, loads, tempo, and intensity, or how many days you do a certain exercise or program a week, or how many times you're going to do it in a month, or what are you going to do for meso cycles, microcycles, macrocycles, etc. There's many types of periodization. So those are all factors that play into the decisions you make to allow you to keep living in that 1 to 3% response, unless you're in a specific late stage training phase where pushing yourself into deeper levels of exhaustion is ideal, but then you need to be managed by someone that really has a good handle on that, or you just hurt yourself. So sometimes I do push athletes up into the yellow and might even get close to the red for very short periods of time, but those people are well trained to manage all this stuff, so they have very good internal systems. An example of that is Mike Salemi, the now famous kettlebell athlete, who I taught all this stuff, and he was very good at monitoring it all so he didn't hurt himself, as have many athletes that I've taught been. So what we want to do now is look at a couple of factors here. Here you see I've plotted out 3 kind of typical cortisol response profiles. So this would be the duration, the number of workouts. So you see 1 workout, 2 workout, 3 workouts, 2 days off, 4th workout, and that can go on indefinitely. Here you see cortisol, so that's moderately high, the dotted line, that's very high. And below there is progressively lower. If you're operating in the green, you're probably going to have a slightly above moderate cortisol response, and then you're going to recover and you'll go back to your next workout and you'll be able to perform quite well. But you'll notice after a couple of workouts that you're getting more microtrauma than you can accumulate. For example, connective tissues take 4 to 6 times longer than muscle tissue to heal because they don't have a direct blood supply. So one of the things that gets athletes in trouble is their muscles feel good, but they don't realize they're accumulating microtrauma in places like musculotendinous junctures, tendinous insertions to bones. And this is why you see all sorts of things like jumper's knee, rotator cuff problems, low back problems. And then you've also got capsular tissues like the joint capsules that can get very traumatized depending on what you're doing. So in a sport like wrestling or jiu-jitsu or cage fighting where you're getting your arms and limbs torqued on and hurt, you can get injuries that might take 6 weeks to recover under ideal conditions, but not realize what's happening because it's deep inside you and you don't have enough sensory awareness to know that, or enough knowledge to know about your body and training. So essentially what you see is you're going to get a fairly decent response, but at some point, if you're not careful, you have to induce rest. If you don't get the rest to drop your cortisol levels down, then you won't be able to come into your next workout. Now, I've just shown a mild cortisol response. It's just a fictitious example. But somebody could go back now after 2 days off and start pushing it again or work themselves back in. It'll depend on the type of workout you're doing too. If you have a yellow reaction, you'll see what happens. You work out and you push yourself, say you stayed in the gym 90 minutes instead of the suggested hour, and you're training at, say, 75% 1RM intensities or higher. Not only do you have a higher response, but it takes longer to clear that because you've got more and more tissue destruction in your body. And if you're not getting enough sleep, then the amount of time the body has to do the repair keeps getting pushed forward. So you're kind of delaying it's kind of like interrupting the mechanic while he's trying to work on your car. If you keep talking to him, instead of getting the car done in 4 hours, it might take 14 hours. So if you don't get enough sleep, you're disrupting the mechanic of the body. And so what you see is your second workout comes and you're going to jack yourself up. But what I'm trying to show is it takes longer and longer, and generally you'll start seeing cortisol levels get higher and higher depending on how you space the workouts. If you push it too hard, then you can go up very high, and then you see it takes even longer to recover. And then you go high again, and so what happens is even when you're on your off days, your body's still trying to recover. So instead of getting that recovery and being ready for your next workout, you're already going to bounce right into a very high cortisol reaction to this fourth workout. So you're setting yourself up for a lot of trouble. One of the things that comes to me to say is that all of you need to be very careful about doing what the Joneses are doing, as a metaphor. If your buddy's training really hard all the time and you're trying to keep up with them, but you're paying attention and realizing it's not working for you, to keep doing that really is childish. It's also important if you're being coached by a coach on a sports team, because most coaches just treat everybody as they're all one body. And I've seen too many coaches train women with the same workouts they train men, which is very dangerous. I've seen athletes ranging from fairly low or almost non-existent levels of readiness all the way to highly ready, all given the same workout, and oftentimes producing a lot of injuries, which is why I end up having to go to work for professional and elite level sports teams, because these general prescriptions produce general problems, which means lots of people get them. So in closing, there's a few things we want to look at here. One, what is your dream? Why are you doing the exercise in the first place? That's the number one thing you got to know. Because if you don't know what your dream is, what reason do you have to monitor yourself? What reason do you have to be invested in your own process? You're probably just going to the gym just because you think it feels good or whatever, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you're going to the gym because it feels good, you want to keep being able to go to the gym, so you once again have to be careful about emulating athletes' workouts that you read in magazines or see on television and doing things that may be way above your level. In other words, you can never escape paying attention, but until you know what your dream is, you don't know how much is the right amount. You don't know what exercises to choose. You don't know what direction you're going with your exercise. So, as the old saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. That's not, in today's environment, that's not an intelligent way to go about exercise, especially with the boom of functional exercise and people getting right into things that they're usually very unprepared for, such as kettlebell training, CrossFit training, and many of these other more explosive, hardcore stuff, training to be a ninja warrior, or a parquet, or a badass. How do I feel? Then you have to look at your 6 foundation factors: nutrition, hydration, sleep, breathing, thinking, movement. Where is my energy invested? Am I giving myself enough time at the I level? Am I too invested in the we or the O level, and it's depleting my ability to manage my nutrition, hydration, sleep, breathing, thinking, and movement effectively to meet the needs of my dream? If you are making those mistakes, then you're going to certainly head right for the red zone, and your long workouts could be the death of you. How's your nervous system doing? If you have any neurological symptoms, monitor them and know that that's not a good sign. How's my limbic emotional system, or my mood, doing? As people get chronically fatigued, they usually start having mood swings and become challenging people to deal with in relationships, and they start leaning on coffee, sugar, stimulants, drugs to prop them up. How's my hormonal system doing? Am I getting things like headaches? Is my menstrual cycle out of balance? If you're a female athlete training hard in the gym and your menstrual cycle's not balanced, well, I can tell you right now, you either need to have a very clear objective about what your dream is and know that there's a shelf life to how long you can do that, or look deeply into what type of mental, emotional issues you're not dealing with, because you're probably avoiding something and using exercise as a form of drug medication. Now, there's other indicators of hormonal stress, such as sleep quality, such as body temperature, such as skin reactions, such as digestion and elimination, and the list is quite long. I have to keep this simple, but that's what Chek practitioner training's for, starting at Exercise Coach. We go into this in much greater detail. These are just giveaway blogs to give you a little taste, so you can think, wow, what would it be like if I really went to the Chek Institute and got trained? Well, you'd learn a hell of a lot. That's what would happen. Musculoskeletal system, how's it doing? Sleep quality, I said. Digestion, elimination, I said. So these are the indicators of whether or not your stress level is getting too high. The more of these problems you have, the more into the danger zone you're going to get. The problem with being in the yellow zone is if you're not paying attention, you don't know whether you're getting better or worse. Most of the time when people hit yellow, they're on the way to red, so they have to look carefully at what's going on. So at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to remember the 1 to 3% rule. You want to go to the gym with the awareness that exercise can be used therapeutically for almost any condition, even if it means you go down to breathing and movement, or the zone exercises I show on How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, which are highly yin restorative exercises. So there's plenty to do in the gym, and also there's time when maybe you should be focusing more on your joint mobilization and your stretching to balance your body, and paying attention to the areas of your body that are or are not responding or seem to chronically have problems. And that's often a case where you need someone like a skilled Chek professional that knows how to assess the entire Chek totem pole to identify things that you're probably unaware are actually the etiology or the cause of problems and symptoms that you may not realize are coming from something higher up in the control systems of the body. You can learn a lot about all this basic self-management in my multimedia ebook, The Last 4 Doctors You'll Ever Need, How to Get Healthy Now. For those of you that want to learn more about the basics of designing an exercise program, particularly with regard to exercise selection, my little book, Movement That Matters, teaches you a lot of very important stuff that's rarely taught to exercise professionals, all the way up to the elite level, surprisingly. And then for those of you that want to learn to manipulate the acute exercise variables, the things that you need to know to make an exercise work from workout to workout, such as reps, sets, loads, tempos, intensities, and rest periods, my program design correspondence course, which could be done on DVD or online, goes into that in great detail. For those of you that want to learn a much more advanced approach, I wouldn't do this advanced program design course without doing program design first. It's the number one course we get sent back because people say it's too technical. And even if you think you know a lot about reps, sets, loads, tempos, and rest periods, chances are when you see what I have in the course, you'll learn a lot. Otherwise, this is going to be complex for you. This gets into how to assess an individual, how to look at biomotor abilities, how to design exercise programs for people with different types of situations, environments, or challenges, and a lot of the more technical details that it takes to keep a person from climbing up into the red, getting injured, and doing a good job designing an exercise program for everybody from the furniture mover to the professional hockey player. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Well, it's a short lesson for Paul Chek. It's probably not a short one for you, but I hope you've enjoyed this and can now answer the question, how much time is ideal for you in the gym? And when I say how much time is ideal, I'm saying how much time is ideal for pushing yourself, resistance training or high intensity training. And though things like aerobics and spin bike and step classes are not classified as high intensity training, intensity relates to how much you can lift relative to 1 RM, your maximum lift. As Charles Poliquin also pointed out, those exercise types can be called high density exercise because you're doing a lot of exercise in a short period of time. Like you might go to a pump class and do hundreds of push-ups in an hour and hundreds of squats. So you want to remember that though I've been speaking mostly to the issues of resistance training, high density training can cause all the same problems I've been describing, and I see mountains of endurance athletes, I made a living off them for a long time, doing the same thing with high density training. So thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed the little lesson today on program design, and my dream is that you get clear on your dream and that you use the gym like a laboratory of well-being, not a place to carry out addictions and bad habits and burn up all your time socializing with people that are usually caught in reading too many magazines and using scientific studies that they don't understand to begin with, because the gym should be a temple of well-being. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.